Hey, this is Nick and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I recorded anything. Me and Cody have been pretty busy, but we just haven't been doing anything that I felt was interesting enough to record. We're starting a new project today. We're in the house we did our big bathroom in. The bathroom is still not 100% done, but it's pretty close. There's a little sneak peek at it. We're gonna be putting in some 26 foot by 2 foot Lvl beams in this house. Y'all check it out. So here's our beams right here. They're gonna be going up in the ceiling right where this wall is at here. Obviously it's splitting the living room and the kitchen. This is a load bearing wall, which is why we have such huge beams here. We're gonna go from the corner right there all the way to this corner here with it. So this little wall stick out is going to be going too. We haven't done anything yet in preparation for that except demo this wall. We got the beams delivered last week, and I guess we need to start making a plan on how we're going to do this. The first step is going to be cut away some of this drywall so we've got access up in the ceiling. We're going to put up a couple of temporary load bearing walls to carry the weight once we get these 2x4s out. We'll cut a beam pocket up in the ceiling joist, make sure all of our electrical's out of the way, and we'll reroute all this stuff. We'll get some rigging equipment together and get that thing up there. So y'all stick around and we'll see what we can do about this. Sort of laid out on the floor where they're going to go in the ceiling. The reason we took the time to do that is because once we get our temporary walls up, we're not going to be able to move these beams at all, and they're several 100-pound a piece. So they're where they're going to go. We won't move them again until we jack them up into the ceiling. So now we're going to start cutting drywall. All right, we got a couple of chalk lines on the ceiling there in blue. The width from line to line is 4 feet. So once we get this drywall out and we get our beam in and everything, we'll be able to just recess a full width piece of drywall and it'll fit right in that cavity. That'll just make it a little easier for us later on. Instead of just cutting a random sized hole, you know, we can help ourselves out a little bit by making it the width of a sheet of drywall. All right, we're gonna cut it out. Yeah, we need to cut some of that furring strips out of there, and we'll probably take down the main furring strips that the drywall attaches to, and just save on them, put them back later. But if we take them out now, it'll give us more room to work. So we've got our drywall pocket cut out. We're gonna cut into these ceiling joists that lap over the top of this load-bearing wall. And we'll cut a little pocket in there, a little cavity that our beams can slide into. For now, we're gonna continue to clean up this hole a little bit, make some more room to work. Okay, this is where we're at. I climbed up in the attic and we pulled all the wiring out of this wall here, and I got a couple of vents out of the way. We got this wire hanging here. It's not, I don't think it's gonna be in the way, but we'll see. We're gonna come back tomorrow and put up our temporary walls. Once those are up, we can get this out and mark our ceiling joists and get ready to cut them. We're getting our temporary walls put up. We're almost done with the first one. We're gonna do another one identical to this on the other side of the counters over there. Basically what we've done is nailed a 2x4 to the ceiling joist, and then we just laid a bottom plate on the ground. We didn't secure it to the ground or anything. There's not gonna be lateral force on this wall either way, so the friction of the 2x4s in the wall are gonna be enough to hold that bottom plate down. Put our top on our bottom plate, and we're just cutting all these studs to fit in here, and this is what's going to carry the load of the ceiling and the roof once we have this center load-bearing wall out of here. That's all there is to say about that. All right, we got both of our load bearing walls up. I want to take some time to explain a little more what we're doing here. Here's the original wall. This is going. We put a temporary wall up here and a temporary wall up on the other side. These temporary walls are gonna hold the weight of the ceiling and the roof when we take this load bearing wall out here. And we do one on each side because we're gonna be cutting into these ceiling joists, and we need something to hold them up on each side of that cut. And again, we just cut this hole in the ceiling to 4 foot wide. The simple reason for that is because when we put sheetrock back up there, one full width piece of sheetrock will fill that gap. So here's our beams. I haven't said much about these. They're 26 feet long. We are gonna have to trim some off the end, but they come in 2 foot increments. We probably could have got a 24 foot beam, but I wasn't comfortable with that length, so I over ordered with a 26. These are 1 3/4 inches wide, so that 2 of them butted up to each other like this is 3.5 inches, which happens to be the exact width of a 2x4. So that way, when it's sitting on our 2x4 studs on the end, there won't be any protrusion and there won't be any gaps. It'll sit perfectly flush on each end. They're 24 inches tall. The disclaimer to that is when you are hanging a load bearing beam, consult with an engineer or somebody that knows what they're talking about. They'll tell you what size beam you need, how tall it needs to be, if you need one beam, if you need 2 beams, all that. So our engineer spec'd a 24-inch beam, 2 of them laminated together. So that is what we are working with here. Okay, so Koty brought up a good point when I was cutting those studs. You could actually feel the weight being transferred to these load bearing walls we put up. You're not going to be able to really see the weight being transferred here. You can feel it. I can already tell this one's real tight, so that's good. Specifically, I want to show you what happens when you're cutting out your load bearing wall. See how loose this is? You really want your studs when you're cutting them to just hang loose. That's how you know that the weight has been transferred from here to your load bearing walls. If the weight was still on this middle load bearing wall, the weight through the stud would have pinched my blade. And the other thing is when my blade did clear that stud, it's just loose. If you're doing this on your own and you're not seeing this here, this looseness, take a look at your load bearing walls, make sure you've got everything braced up properly. And that's that. We're gonna pull these studs out of here and finish getting this wall out. All right, load bearing wall is out. We spent probably 6 hours of work in here, and it only took about 5 minutes to cut that wall out. As with anything, when you're doing home improvements, preparation is key. All right, I'm up in the attic. We're at one of the very ends of where the beam is gonna go. You can see my pocket here I made. We busted out all of those studs. When we get ready, oh, sorry, battery's low and my flashlight went off, but you can kind of get the idea. When we get ready to hoist that beam up, it's gonna come up through here and butt up to this joist. And then once we have it hanging, we'll slide some studs in underneath this, out flush with this, so that way we can have a clean drywall corner right there. So we're gonna go down and do the same thing on the other side.
You know what makes 0 sense about this cheap tape measure?
Huh.
It's in feet and inches, you know. But you know how on the back they tell you the width of the tape? It's 80 millimeters.
All right, let me just pull out a conversion calculator real quick.
Let me convert this.
Okay, so we're up here in the attic. One of the considerations you need to make if you're gonna hang a beam is a hoisting location. We came up with this contraption.
So basically, we didn't want to just hook our rigging up here because as we start to pick the beam, it obviously slide down. Put a 2x4 across your rafters here. Throw 3 nails in each end, but that's still gonna mean the beam's gonna be pulling straight down. So we added these blocks here on the side from our supports, I guess, and blocked it up so it can't just pull down. It's gonna be pushing against our stoppers here. We got one on that end, one in the middle, and we're putting another one on that end. These beams are pretty heavy, and you just don't want to tie off to any piece of wood up here. You want to make sure you're on multiple points.
We're real close to yanking this thing up here. Let's get that last one in.
I'm gonna put one more wrap in this up on the beam, just so it brings it up about a foot, so we're kind of a little more even. And
yeah.
This one's kind of lower, so.
All right, the rigging's up. There's 2 more things, well, 3 more things we got to do before we can put this in the ceiling. One of which is cut our pocket in our ceiling joist. The other is to laminate these 2 beams together as one unit. We're using these flat lock truss screws or Lvl Beam Screws. They're 3.5 inches long, which is going to give us complete through bolting on these beams. Whatever fastener you're using and whatever beam you're using, you need to make sure that you're doing the correct fastener pattern. Your fastener manufacturer will have specifications for laminating beams together. Ours happens to be 1.75 inch minimum spacing from the top and the bottom, 24-inch spacings between rows, and then in each row of fastener they need to be staggered 3 3/4 inch. And we're also a minimum 3 3/4 spacing from the end of the beam. After we get the pocket cut and we get these laminated together, we're gonna hoist this up in the air to get this off the ground, and we're gonna cut the tail off of this beam here. So yeah, cut the pocket, laminate the beams, hoist it, cut the beams, and then finish hoisting. All right, another sanity check you can give on yourself as you're going through this process is once you start cutting out your ceiling joist pockets, run your blade up through it one time where you need to cut it, and look at that. No movement at all. Neither side of this kerf moved. So I know that my load-bearing walls, my temporary load-bearing walls are doing their job.
Hey, that one, it moved, but it went up. I seen it, this side went up a touch. Yeah, like our wall pushed it up some.
That's good.
Because we did beat in these ones on this side pretty good.
Yeah.
Cardboard on.
Perfect. Okay, we're in the final stages of preparation here. The beam is laminated together. Like I said, check with your fastener and your beam manufacturer to figure out what your fastener spacings need to be. We're fastened all the way down. We got our pocket cut and our ceiling joist, and we are just about ready to hoist. Last thing we need to do before it can go in the ceiling is lift it up, cut that tail off, and then we're going in the ceiling.
Ready to do it.
All right, so we got this far. We ran out of headroom on our winches, and we were gonna use these ratchet straps, but they're not sliding on this, they're just wanting to roll it. So we went and got a couple of pulleys and some bolts to attach, some U-bolts to attach our pulleys to up on our 2x4 blocking. All right, so here's our new rigging system. We got a U-bolt through our blocking with a pulley on it. The pulley is going down to our beam, and our winch is going across to this rafter support here. So this is gonna give us enough headroom to get this into this winch all the way up to where this pulley's at. Now we're gonna go do the other side and start cranking on it some more. All right, the beam is in the pocket. The only thing holding it up there still is the rigging straps. We're about to put our jack studs on each end, and then once those studs are in, we can start nailing our joist hangers up to the beam. My phone's about to die here, but I just want to get a video real quick of these joist hangers. The hard work is done. All we have left to do is to secure everything in place. We've already put our jack studs on each end, right here, holding that beam up. All we're using is some 2x6 joist hangers. These are sliding up in the joist and getting down to the joist and the beam. So there you can see what we've got going on, and we're just doing that all the way down. Once all of our joist hangers are in, we'll be able to take these temporary walls out. You can use a hammer to do this, but at such tight quarters, we like using this palm nailer. It's a rigid palm nailer, and it really drives those nails pretty good. Okay, my phone is gonna die any second, but I just wanna put this out here. You'll know you've done a good job once all your joist hangers are in if your temp wall does this. This shows you that the weight is no longer on your temporary wall and it's all being carried by your beam. So good job, Cody.
You got her done.
Yep. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like the content, please subscribe, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next one.